for joining me. This is a fun technique you can do with any type of paint, but I really like to do this with acrylic because acrylic tends to dry a little faster. You probably never thought of this, but you can get some awesome stroke details by painting with a fork. I call this fork painting. And I'm just going to demonstrate in this video. I have a basic plastic fork, and all you simply do is dip the fork into a good amount of paint. You kind of want like a little glob. That way you can actually get paint all the way around the edges, inside and out of the fork. Take the fork, now you can dab it, and I'm gonna kind of make this look like grass down below. A lot of good things you can do with the fork. And as it runs out of paint, you can just always go grab more. And that's honestly, to me, that's a really great technique, just it running out of paint. Now with the fork, something you have to be aware of is as you lift the fork away from the paper surface, it's going to have little drag marks, so make sure you're going directly up and down if you want clean strokes. If you kind of like them a little jagged or a little mixture, the paint kind of flying, that's okay, just let it happen. Now I'm going to show you, I'm going to go into yellow because I always feel like fork painting, there's a lot of good blending that's going to happen. I'm going to dip into yellow, oh, and I'm getting a little orange, that's okay. Okay, and now I'm just going to do what I call the drag. So down and drag, lift. And I can actually pull what's there, and you can see it's getting more of a whisk effect and blending. I'm gonna go into purple, just because. Okay. Now because the paint is actually being pulled across the paper versus dabbing like a stamp, you're gonna need a little bit more paint for this. Okay. And you can just pull up the paint on the paper and you'll get really cool effects that way. Just gonna go into white just for fun here. And we'll dip into some reds. Okay, now this is a very abstract use of the fork. I like to use forks for doing certain types of trees, like I mentioned, grass, animal hair. There's a lot of cool textures you can do with fork painting. And I'll do a tree just for kicks, so I can show you how I do it. I kind of just like to drag. So now remember, I use the fork as more of a texturing tool. That's what I recommend. So if you're ever painting a tree, or unless you have a lot of time and you just really like this technique, I would paint the base of the tree like a color in the background of it, and then use the fork to just simply texture it. And you can use the fork anyway. I mean, look at this. You can even flip it over and get different lines and thicknesses that way. You can really even glob it on and kind of scoop it with the fork as well. So look at that. We can go on the side. Oh, yeah. When we go on the side, all of the edges are going to be going kind of in the same space. So that's one way. And then I'm just going to go in with a little red and orange here. And I'm just going to use the fork as more of like a dabbing tool. I just want this end right here. And I'm going to be building up. Now keep in mind, this is a little abstract. Just kind of that trunk that would be visible in that tree. Right there. Okay. Give it a little swirl. Now I'm just going to go over it one last time with some green, and I'll go in with some white to lighten up this tree. Okay. Now, one last note, when using the fork, be aware of which way your direction is going. So for example, for this tree, I want my strokes to be going down. If you're going upward or kind of at a non-45-degree angle, that's okay. That's just building what we call volume to the tree, that it has a lot of thickness to it. That's a good way to get the paint moved around with the fork. Okay, awesome. That's a little on how you fork it with paint, and thanks for joining me today. Happy forking!